Be honest, have you ever felt like everything in your life was going wrong? No matter how much effort you put in, nothing seems to go your way. It's frustrating, even overwhelming. But here's the thing, it's not just you. Everyone faces these moments where obstacles feel endless. The difference lies in how you respond. Today, we're getting into a powerful perspective inspired by Joe Dispenza, one that can completely shift the way you see these challenges and help you turn things around. Stay with me, because this could change everything. Now, today's episode is all about learning how to deal with difficult situations in a calmer and more balanced way. Not being frustrated, not being mad, nothing. The idea is to turn challenges into opportunities for growth rather than sources of stress. Many people struggle with handling frustrating times without letting their emotions take over. But there is a way to approach problems differently. By making a few small changes in how situations are perceived, it is possible to navigate life with greater peace. There's often a tendency to feel like things aren't going the way they should. Plans don't always work out, and unexpected obstacles come up. This can lead to frustration, disappointment, and even a sense of powerlessness. But what if difficult situations weren't seen as roadblocks but as opportunities to grow? What if life didn't need to be controlled so tightly, and instead there was a way to move through challenges with greater ease? That is exactly what this discussion will explore. It is easy to believe that controlling every aspect of life is necessary for things to go well. There is a common expectation that life should be fair and that events should unfold according to specific plans. But life is unpredictable. Things don't always happen the way they were imagined. Sometimes situations feel unfair. This unpredictability is a natural part of life, yet it is one of the biggest sources of internal conflict. Expectations play a major role in how difficulties are experienced. When there is an expectation that things should happen in a certain way, it creates an opening for frustration when reality doesn't match up. The more there is an effort to control every outcome, the more disappointment there is when things don't go as planned. Dispenza teaches that trying to control every detail of life actually pushes peace further away. The struggle to make everything perfect is exhausting, and it often leads to unnecessary stress. Imagine a life where the need for control is let go. Instead of resisting what happens, reality is accepted as it is. It may sound difficult, but this shift in perspective can be incredibly freeing. Observing situations without immediately imposing expectations on them makes it easier to handle challenges. Instead of seeing an unexpected event as a disaster, it can be seen as just another part of the journey. The goal here is not to ignore difficulties, but to approach them with a different mindset. There are 3 practical steps that can be used to deal with challenges more effectively. The first step is identifying the real problem and understanding how expectations shape the response to situations. The second step involves shifting the perspective to focus on what can actually be controlled. The third step is about learning how to adapt and respond in a way that preserves inner peace. Life is unpredictable, and trying to control everything only leads to stress. Many struggles come from unrealistic expectations rather than the actual situations themselves. When things don't go as expected, frustration and disappointment take over. But if expectations are adjusted, difficulties can be approached with a calmer mindset. This tendency to expect specific outcomes is deeply tied to how humans try to make sense of their world. From childhood, people are taught to visualize goals, aim for perfection, and measure success in tangible ways: grades, awards, promotions, compliments. While this can be motivating, it also wires the brain to expect reward for effort. But the truth is, life doesn't always reward effort in predictable ways. Outcomes depend on countless factors beyond individual control. Holding on to fixed ideas of how things should turn out often sets people up for emotional distress. For example, imagine working hard on a project for weeks, hoping for recognition. But in the end, the effort goes unnoticed, or the results aren't as expected. This can be incredibly frustrating, but the frustration doesn't come from the situation itself. It comes from the expectation that things should have turned out differently. It's in moments like these that people feel unseen or undervalued, but what really hurts is the gap between what they imagined and what actually happened. When this gap widens, the brain registers it as disappointment or even failure, but reframing that moment as just part of the journey rather than a final verdict can reduce emotional suffering. The key lies in learning how to detach self-worth from outcome. This same pattern happens in many areas of life. People expect fairness, success, and specific outcomes, and when those expectations aren't met, stress and disappointment follow. Dispenza explains that suffering often isn't caused by what happens, but by the expectations surrounding what happens. Take relationships as another example. Many people expect others to behave a certain way, to understand without explanation, to always support their goals, or to react kindly during conflict. But people are complex, with their own backgrounds, traumas, and expectations. When others don't meet assumed standards, it leads to emotional friction. Not because the situation is inherently damaging, but because the expectation was too rigid or unrealistic. By softening the grip on those expectations, it becomes easier to understand and respond rather than react. The problem isn't necessarily the challenge itself, but the way it was anticipated. The expectation of a certain result creates emotional turmoil when reality doesn't match up. By adjusting expectations, a major source of stress is removed. This can also be seen in personal development. People often believe that by following a certain routine, like waking up early, journaling, meditating, they'll immediately experience peace or productivity. But growth is rarely linear. Some days will feel off, no matter how many boxes are ticked. Expecting consistent results from complex emotional and mental processes can lead to self-judgment. Instead, allowing flexibility and progress can create a more sustainable and kind path forward. This idea can completely shift how challenges are approached. Instead of expecting things to go a certain way, there is an opportunity to accept them as they come. This doesn't mean giving up on goals or not caring about results. It simply means not attaching emotional well-being to specific outcomes. In a practical sense, this means working with intention rather than expectation. Intention says, "I'll give this my best." Expectation says, "It better turn out this way." One leads to peace, the other to pressure. When expectations are reduced, the mind becomes clearer, and energy can be directed toward effort rather than outcome control. This allows more room for learning, curiosity, and adaptability, qualities that help people navigate unpredictable situations. By doing this, it becomes easier to stay calm, even when things don't go as planned. Now, let's explore the 3 practical steps to dealing with difficulties in a more balanced way. The first step is analyzing the situation clearly. Before reacting, it's important to take a step back and ask whether the situation is actually within personal control. Many times, frustration comes from trying to control things that are completely out of reach. By identifying what is and isn't controllable, energy can be directed more effectively. Dispenza teaches that one of the biggest causes of stress is trying to control everything. Instead of automatically reacting to a situation, it helps to pause and assess what is really going on. A simple way to do this is to ask, what are the main factors involved in this situation? Which parts of this situation can actually be influenced? Which parts are beyond your control? Taking the time to answer these questions brings clarity. If something can be changed, action can be taken. If it's out of control, then energy shouldn't be wasted trying to fight against it. This one simple practice can prevent a lot of unnecessary stress. For example, Imagine getting stuck in traffic on the way to an important meeting. The immediate reaction might be frustration, anger, or panic. But taking a moment to analyze the situation reveals that traffic is beyond personal control. Instead of wasting energy on frustration, the focus can shift to finding a solution, calling ahead to inform about the delay, using the time to prepare mentally, or simply accepting the delay with patience. This kind of shift in perspective applies to all areas of life. Whether it's dealing with a work setback, a personal challenge, or unexpected changes, analyzing the situation first helps prevent emotional overreactions. Once the situation has been analyzed, the next step is shifting focus toward what can actually be controlled. If something can be changed, action can be taken. If not, it's time to accept it and adjust expectations. Many struggles come from resisting reality rather than adapting to it. By making peace with what cannot be changed, energy can be redirected toward more productive efforts. Dispenza emphasizes that a key to maintaining peace is learning to let go of unnecessary struggle. Instead of getting caught up in frustration, the focus should be on responding in a way that aligns with personal well-being. If something is truly out of control, the best response is to shift attention to something that is within reach. Finally, the third step is practicing resilience. Even with the best mindset, challenges will still come. The difference is in how they are faced. When difficulties arise, it helps to remind oneself that nothing is permanent. Situations change and emotions pass. Instead of getting stuck in frustration, a resilient mindset allows for movement forward. Resilience doesn't mean ignoring difficulties or pretending everything is fine. It means facing situations with strength, adaptability, and patience. A simple but effective practice is to take a deep breath and remind oneself that every challenge is temporary. By focusing on what can be done rather than what went wrong, it becomes easier to navigate difficult moments. Dispenza teaches that true freedom comes from within. It's not about changing every external circumstance. It's about shifting the internal response to those circumstances. By learning to let go of unnecessary expectations, analyzing situations clearly, and focusing on what can actually be influenced, it is possible to move through life with greater peace and balance. This approach doesn't just make dealing with difficulties easier, it also leads to a deeper sense of fulfillment. Instead of being at the mercy of circumstances, there is a newfound sense of control over how life is experienced. Challenges become opportunities for growth rather than sources of stress. Understanding the importance of analyzing a situation is the first step, but recognizing an issue is only half the battle. The next step is about taking practical action once it's clear that the problem is within reach. Knowing that change is possible is empowering, but without action, nothing shifts. When there's something that can be adjusted or improved, decisive steps must be taken to make a real difference. Once a situation has been carefully examined and it's clear that the issue falls within personal control, the logical next move is to act. This is where true transformation happens. Dispenza highlights the significance of taking responsibility for what is within reach. He explains that this is one of the most effective ways to regain control over life. Identifying a problem is important, but what truly matters is what happens next. Imagine realizing that a challenge stems from a habit, something like a pattern of behavior or a past decision. The moment it becomes evident that the issue lies within something that can be changed, an opportunity presents itself. Adjustments can be made and the situation can be improved. While this may sound simple, many people feel stuck, believing that circumstances are completely beyond their control. In reality, even small actions can lead to massive transformations. To get started, it's important to reflect on what changes can be made immediately. A few questions can help guide this process. What practical adjustments can be implemented right now? Is there a specific step that can correct or improve the situation? What action can be taken today to create progress? Answering these questions provides clarity and makes the next steps more obvious. Taking action may seem straightforward, but it requires courage. Acknowledging personal shortcomings, mistakes, or areas that need improvement can be uncomfortable. However, this level of self-awareness is crucial for growth. It's easy to blame external circumstances, but true progress comes from recognizing personal influence over a situation. This willingness to act on what is within reach is what leads to meaningful change. For example, let's say a workplace conflict with a coworker. After analyzing the issue, it becomes apparent that miscommunication plays a significant role. Perhaps a comment was misunderstood, or an unintended tone caused tension. This is a perfect example of a problem that can be addressed directly. Instead of allowing misunderstandings to create unnecessary friction, an open and honest conversation could bridge the gap. Taking responsibility for personal communication, clarifying intentions, and being willing to listen can completely shift the dynamic. Dispenza stresses that taking responsibility for personal choices allows obstacles to become learning opportunities. By taking action, a powerful message is sent. Rather than being a passive participant, there is an active role in shaping the outcome. This proactive mindset is empowering and often leads to unexpected solutions. Another benefit of focusing on what can be changed is that energy is no longer wasted on things beyond control. Many people spend countless hours worrying about factors they have no power over. Instead of exhausting energy on the uncontrollable, redirecting focus to what truly makes a difference creates a sense of relief. Shifting attention to tangible actions not only improves the situation, but also reduces frustration and stress. It's essential to remember that taking action doesn't mean everything will be fixed instantly. Most changes happen gradually. Often, small steps accumulate into major transformations. The key is to start. Even a single practical action taken today can initiate a ripple effect. Identifying just one thing that can be done right now and taking that first step is enough to set the transformation process in motion. With a solid understanding of how to act on what can be changed, it's time to explore the next phase. Not everything in life is within personal control, and learning how to handle situations that cannot be changed is just as crucial. The final step involves shifting perspective when facing circumstances that are entirely out of reach. Dealing with situations beyond personal control is an inevitable part of life. No matter how much effort is put into fixing things, some situations simply do not depend on individual choices. Dispenza teaches that the key in such cases is to adjust perspective. Instead of resisting what cannot be changed, shifting the way it is viewed makes all the difference. When faced with something that cannot be altered, the natural response is often resistance. There is an instinctive urge to fight against reality, attempting to change things that are immovable. Whether it's another person's opinion, an unexpected event, or someone else's actions, the impulse to control external factors can be overwhelming. However, this resistance only leads to frustration. Frustration arises from the expectation that reality should be different from what it is, but no amount of resistance can alter certain circumstances. Accepting reality doesn't mean giving up. It means reclaiming your energy to create real change. If you're ready to shift your perspective, comment "accept" below. So, how can situations beyond control be handled without losing peace of mind? The answer lies in shifting perception. Dispenza explains that even when external reality cannot be changed, there is always the power to change how it is interpreted. This change in perspective is a valuable tool for finding peace and growth even in the most challenging circumstances. For example, consider receiving harsh criticism. It's impossible to control how others judge or perceive actions. However, the way criticism is processed is entirely within personal control. Instead of allowing negative feedback to create self-doubt, it can be reframed as an opportunity. Perhaps there is a lesson to be learned, or maybe it's a chance to reaffirm personal confidence and values. The critique itself may not change, but its impact does. Practicing a shift in perspective teaches the importance of accepting what cannot be changed while still finding value in the experience. Dispenza emphasizes that adjusting perception creates an internal sense of peace that remains steady regardless of external circumstances. This inner balance is crucial for maintaining composure during difficult times. To help with this mindset shift, a few key questions can be useful. How can this situation be viewed in a more positive light? What lesson can be taken from this experience? In what ways does this challenge provide an opportunity for growth? Training the mind to focus on constructive interpretations leads to resilience and adaptability. This ability to shift perspective is liberating. It reveals that even when circumstances are unchangeable, there is always the choice of how to respond. Instead of feeling powerless, there is control over personal reactions and mindset. This is a powerful realization. By embracing this third step, a cycle is completed. Accepting the limits of control while focusing on what can be changed brings a newfound sense of freedom. Challenges no longer feel like unbearable burdens, but become part of a broader journey of growth and self-discovery. What once seemed like an obstacle can become a stepping stone toward greater personal development. To maintain this balanced mindset, daily habits play an important role. Dispenza highlights that the mind is shaped by what it is fed. To reinforce positive thinking, intentional practices must be adopted. Regular exposure to constructive ideas, inspirational content, and mindfulness exercises strengthens the ability to remain calm and adaptable. Starting the day with positive affirmations is one simple but effective practice. Phrases like, "I am capable of handling any challenge with confidence," or "I focus on what I can change and let go of what I cannot," reinforce a mindset that supports resilience. Similarly, consuming uplifting material, whether through books, videos, or conversations, keeps the mind in a productive and empowered state. Meditation is another powerful tool. Observing thoughts without judgment allows negative patterns to be recognized and replaced with more constructive thinking. Over time, this practice builds the ability to maintain perspective, even in difficult moments. By consistently reinforcing these habits, a mental foundation is built that supports emotional strength and clarity. Regardless of external challenges, this mindset acts as a shield, maintaining peace and stability. Reaching the end of this process, a clear framework emerges. The 3 steps, analyzing the situation, acting on what is within control, and adjusting perspective on what cannot be changed, form a practical approach to handling life's challenges. Dispenza's insight reinforces that perception shapes reality, and by mastering this process, life transforms. The takeaway is simple but powerful. Real strength lies in the ability to choose how to respond. With this understanding, even the toughest situations become manageable. This perspective allows for greater peace, resilience, and a deeper sense of personal power. Now, just like any other episode, I have a question for you. When faced with all the unexpected challenges, what strategies can help you maintain perspective? Let me know in the comments. And if this was something that relates to you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more content that challenges the way we think.